Arts and Entertainment. I am Deborah Gilbert, your host, and thanks so much for being here today. So glad you could join me. Well, I have a celebrity here that I'd love to introduce you to. His name is Scot Haney. He's a meteorologist for Channel 3 WFSB based in Rocky Hill, Connecticut. And Scott, thanks so much for being here.
I'm honored to be called a celebrity. You're the celebrity here.
Oh,
I'm being graced by your presence.
Well,
it's wonderful to
my
be here.
Goodness, like I was telling you when you arrived, you're all over my YouTube channel.
I appreciate
and
that.
And Google and everything.
I know there's a lot of stuff out
I
there.
know.
So how are you?
I'm okay. So far, so good today.
Yeah, it's a good day.
The day is young.
Yes, absolutely.
And you got here okay.
I got here terrific. I'm glad to be here, and I'm glad to finally get to meet you.
Thank you for coming to be in the studio.
Oh, my pleasure.
It
really is my pleasure. I think that the interaction between people in person is much better than Zoom. Although my therapist wants to do Zoom tomorrow. And I'm like, all right.
Okay then.
All right, we'll do Zoom.
Mine's by phone. So I'm even less personal.
That's funny.
Well, let's take the viewer back.
Okay.
Why don't we talk about your background and where you started from?
All right, I was born in Long Island, Comac, Long Island, home of Rosie O'Donnell. She went to high school with me. She was class of 80, and I was class of 82, so we go back a long way. But you know, I don't know if she'd recognize my last name at this point, but anyway, she ended up with all the money. I ended up at Channel 3, which is both, I think, a good place for the both of us. I was telling you a little early, I was born with bilateral club feet. I had braces, I had casts on my feet until I was like 2 years old, and several operations to correct my feet, and then I wore braces on my feet every night to bed until I was 13. I was supposed to wear them until I was 16, but then I had made such great progress, my doctor said I didn't have to wear the braces anymore at night, so I wore braces every night to bed until I was 13 years old, which was, you know, as a kid, you're like,
of course.
You want to have a sleepover. So every time I had a sleepover, my parents were like, you don't have to wear your braces tonight. But it was a good childhood. My parents waited until I was 21 to get divorced, which I appreciate, which was nice. And I grew up in a typical middle-class income family. My dad and mom both worked. I had two older brothers, Jeff and Rick, and one lives in Atlanta, one lives in Long Island by my mom. And when I graduated from high school, I didn't really know, I knew I wanted to be in television news, I just didn't know how to get there. So my mother was like, why don't you major in business? She's like, and go to St. John's. I was like, why do you want me to go to St. John's University? She's like, your grandmother lives 12 houses away and she can keep an eye on you. I was like, aha. So I did. I applied to St. John's, and my choir teacher from high school let me know about a singing scholarship. And Mario Cuomo was the governor of New York State at that time. And he would use this mixed choir to go in and like warm up the audience. And so he was an undergrad from St. John's, and the mixed choir would go in and sing with him, and then we go into children's hospitals. But if you were good enough and you had a good enough voice and you auditioned, you could get money to go to school to St. John's. So I did. I got the scholarship, and then academically I did okay at St. John's. So I was on a half scholarship to go to St. John's. So I wasn't going to switch majors and I wasn't going to switch schools because I was already entrenched. But when I got out, I really didn't know what I wanted to do. I had been working in a supermarket my whole life since the time I was 16. Deborah, I want to tell you, I've been fired from one job in my whole life. That was King Cullen Supermarkets. I was 16, I got the job as a cashier, and for whatever reason they didn't like me, and I was there only a month. So I said, I'll show them. And I went to Pathmark Supermarkets, and I got a job at Pathmark, and that lasted 12 years, and I was there so long, I got a pension, which is awesome. So at 62, I get to collect $147 a month from Pathmark Supermarkets.
Congratulations.
Thank you. It's a dinner out or a couple of drinks.
Exactly.
So anyway, so I finished St. John's. And I had a group of friends who were watching out for me, and they were like, you should go and use your degree. You got a degree in business. I said, well, I don't know what to do. And they said, well, what do you like to do? I said, I like to clothes shop. And they were like, I love clothing. They're like, why don't you go into retail? I said, all right, sounds like a good idea. So I applied for a position at Macy's and at Saks Fifth Avenue. I didn't get the job at Macy's, but I got the job at Saks Fifth Avenue in their executive training program. And they promote you out of this executive training program in a course of a couple of months, and then you go to become an assistant buyer. So here I am buying contemporary denim, which I had no idea what it was, and I was becoming an assistant buyer on my way to becoming a buyer for Saks Fifth Avenue, and I just didn't like it. And I only stayed 6 months, and my mother was like, what are you going to do? I said, I'm going to leave. And she's like, you can't leave. She's like, you only have 6 months on your resume. So I said, I'll get another job. So I decided to become an actor. And I was like, I didn't know how to act, but I figured I'll get a couple of headshots taken, and then I'll send them to, I had some advice from a friend of mine. He's like, send them to all the soap operas in New York City. So I sent them around to all the soap operas in New York City, and I got One Life to Live. So I was on the background scenes of One Life to Live, and I always wanted to be in front of the camera. I didn't want to be the extra, I wanted to be the focal point. I wanted to be the main actor. But that never happened. So I was making like $125 for 10 hours worth of work, and it was a long day, which seemed like a lot of money, $125, but if you divide it into the hours, it wasn't that great. I was making more at the supermarket than I was being an extra on a soap opera. So I decided to go back to retail. I got a job at Brooks Brothers, and that's where I met my friend Carol Englehart. And she took me under her wing, and she was like, she's like, you're great at what you do, don't get me wrong. She's like, but you don't really fit in here. She's like, do you want to do something else with your life? And I said, yeah, I want to be in television news. And it was kind of like the first time I ever uttered the words, I wanted to be in television news. And she was like, do you know anybody? Did you have any education? She's like, you know, do you have any experience in television news? I said, no, I really don't know it. She's like, you got to go back to school. So I went, she's like, and you got to go to Syracuse because that's the #1 communication school in the nation. So I was like, okay. So she helped me with my applications. I got in, and that was March of 1990. And miraculously, I can't say that word, but I'm learning. I got a full graduate scholarship to go to Syracuse, and I became a TA, and I taught a couple of classes, and it was a wonderful experience. They taught me, I was there for 2 years. They taught me everything I needed to know how to get a job in television. But while I was there, I was taking a class. One day you'd be the sports anchor, one day you'd be the news director, one day you'd be the reporter, one day you'd do the weather. And every time I did the weather, my professors were in the back of the room going, you should really just do the weather. And I was like, I don't know anything about the weather. And they were like, you'll learn. You've got the gift of gab. So when you just get up there, start talking, and they'll teach you how to be, they'll teach you about the weather, but you've got the gift of gab, so you'll be perfect for weather. So I tailored my resume as I was getting out of graduate school to become a weatherman, and I got a job in Topeka, Kansas. Of all places, they didn't require you to be a meteorologist. KSNT, Topeka 27. John Rinkenbauer was my news director, and I moved there, and the starting salary they offered me was $14,000 in 1993. Not a lot of money and it was an NBC affiliate. I thought I was going to be a millionaire. So that didn't pan out, but the job was great. I didn't stay there that long. I was homesick, and I came home. I'll admit, I probably should have stayed there longer, but I was only there for less than 4 months, and I decided to move home, and I got a temp job while I was waiting to get another job in television. I got a temp job at Gray Advertising in New York City in their human resource department. And they hired me full-time to work in human resources, so that turned into another career. So I did that for about 2 to 3 years, and then my dream of being on television was slipping away. And then I had a friend call who I had gone to Syracuse with, and she's like, what are you doing? I said, I'm kind of miserable, I'm in New York City. So she's like, we're looking for a part-time weather guy. You should apply. So I applied for the job. I got it part-time weekends. So I went weekends in News 12, New Jersey, and Edison, New Jersey. And then I went to work Monday through Friday back at my job in New York City. And that turned into a full-time job at News 12. But they called me in, they said, we want you to do the weather full-time. So I said, okay. They're like, what do you know about the weather? I said, not much. They said, you got to go back to school. So they paid for me to go back to school to become a meteorologist. And that's how I did it. I took my classes at Stony Brook, and I got an accreditation in meteorology. You have to take 7 courses determined by the American Meteorological Society. If you have a bachelor's already, you can take these 7 courses and you can be accredited as you can call yourself a meteorologist. So I didn't do it undergrad, whereas Mark Dixon and Bruce DePriest, who I work with, they majored in meteorology undergrad. I kind of put the cart before the horse, whereas I majored in business, then I got a communications degree, then I went back and I took all my meteorology courses. So I kind of put the cart before the horse, but I ended up doing the weather, and I've been there 23 years. I'm coming on 24 years at Channel 3. It's been a long time.
Long time.
Long time.
And you and I appreciate the viewer a lot, and
Love the viewer.
aren't they special?
I had a viewer, if I can tell that,
Sure.
she made me a scarf. She came to the studio yesterday.
Oh,
The scarf, Deborah, is as long as it is from here to that camera. And she knitted the temperature for every day of the year. Color coded it, so if it was a hot day, the yarn was red. If it was a cool day, the yarn was blue. And she did it for every day of the year for 365 days of the year. I was blown away that this woman would do this for me. She's a special education teacher in Hartford. Her name is June Hartley. And she made this amazing scarf for me. And she's like, it has every day of the temperature for that day, so you can tell the seasons. And she had a line in the scarf for my birthday. I was blown. That's the kind of people that are out there, and you just love them.
yeah, you just love them.
You just love them.
But what I wanted to add to the specialness of what you just said is about the viewer. And we probably have some individuals that would like to be a meteorologist, follow your path, are in it and are not getting to where they want to be. Do you recommend workshops, classes? What do they need to do?
Internships. Take a couple of more classes. If they have all meteorology classes, maybe go back and take a couple of broadcast journalism classes. Or it used to be Linden State. It's not Linden State anymore. They have a broadcast meteorology component. So they have broadcasting and meteorology. Maybe they can take a couple of classes in broadcasting, get them in front of that camera, get them used to being in front of the camera, doing meteorology, but at the same time getting that communications aspect as well. Because a lot of people go to undergrad for meteorology, but then they've never been in front of a camera. So it's good to have that background. It's good to have a little bit of a broadcast background. But you can also do an internship. And if you can, especially if you're a junior or senior in college, you can do an internship with a station like Channel 3. If you're lucky enough to get one of the positions, they're few and far between. But if hopefully if you submit your resume, maybe you'll get lucky. You'll get one of those internships, and you can parlay that into getting some work experience with the professionals at the station, and then you can make a resume tape, and that's how a lot of the kids do it these days.
So the next question is, how did Channel 3 find you? How'd you find them? What happened?
I got a talent agent out of New York City, and he said, you can't work in the middle of the nation. He's like, well, I said, why? He's like, you're too much. He's like, you're too much for the middle of the nation. And I said, no, you know what? I already tried Kansas. He's like, you can either end up on the West Coast or the East Coast. So it's going to take us a little time to find you a job, but we're going to find you a job. And the next thing you know, he called and said, we have a part-time weather position open in Hartford, Connecticut. Now, when you grow up on Long Island, you think of Connecticut as Fairfield County. You didn't know there's a Hartford. Or you've heard of Hartford, but I'd never been there. So you learn that there's so much more to Connecticut than just Fairfield County. I came up, I got the interview. Steve Sabato was the news director. He didn't want to hire me. He said, you're basically here as a favor to Kenny Slotnick, who's your agent, because I'm good friends with him. I said, okay. I said, give me a year. I said, I'll move the needle. And if I don't move the needle, the meter needle, which tells how many people are watching the station. So if I don't move the needle, in a year you get rid of me and we'll call it a day. But give me a year to give it a try. Well, that year turned into 24 years later, and I'm still there.
Let's hold that thought. I'm Deborah Gilbert. You are tuned into Arts and Entertainment. We're going to take a break. We'll be right back.
People ask me, is it hard to figure out if I should get tested for coronavirus? Well, as a professor, I love giving a pop quiz. Are you experiencing fever, chills, cough, shortness of breath, fatigue, or body ache? Well, then coronavirus testing is available without a referral, and it's the best way to protect yourself and your family. You know, it actually reminds me of Plato, who once said, the price good men pay. Okay, I deserve that.
Community TV, your neighborhood TV.
Publicly funded and a reliable partner for cable companies nationwide, it provides transparent coverage of local and state government, education, and public programming.
A digital town green that can be watched anywhere, anytime, and on any device.
Watch us on today's high-tech distribution methods.
Community TV in Connecticut.
Local,
unfiltered,
reliable, and yours.
And and welcome back to Arts and Entertainment. I'm Deborah Gilbert, your host, and again, thanks so much for being here today. Well, we continue on with our conversation with Scot Haney, a meteorologist with Channel 3, WFSB, based in Rocky Hill, Connecticut. And Scott, I had just mentioned the website. Let's not forget about it, because the viewer will want to find out more about WFSB and you.
You can go there. There's a wealth of information, WFSB.com. First of all, you can get all the weather that you need. We have so many graphics up there that are updated automatically, so you can get real-time weather information if you need it. We've got the radar on there, the only live Doppler radar in Connecticut, so that's streaming live, and you can just get, you can find out about the bios of the people who work at Channel 3 if you want to go in there and learn a little bit more about me. Not that you need to after this interview, I pretty much told you everything, but you can click on the bios, you can get arts and entertainment like this show in particular, you can find out where events are taking place, you can find out newsworthy events, you can follow the news, read more in depth. It's a more in-depth analysis of what's taking place in the state on the website.
Your machinery, was it hard to learn what you do? Because I've seen you
Yes.
on television and on and my laptop.
The green screen was the easiest part about the whole job.
Okay, so tell us what the green screen is.
So the green screen, when you're watching me on television, there's really nothing behind me. All it is a big green wall. And I have a camera in front of me and two cameras to the right and to the left of me. And I look at those cameras and I can see myself in the televisions on both sides. That's basically what you're seeing at home. And then I can look in the camera and I can see myself in the camera. And that's basically also what you're seeing at home. So it's basically, I am watching myself on TV. And that kind of helps me to navigate where to point on the green screen to do the weather. So if I, for instance, point to Hartford, I know to use this particular hand and slide this way. But if I point to Danbury, then I know to slide this way. And you never turn your back on the audience. You always have to slide this way or slide this way. And the reason why you never turn your back on the audience is because I have a huge bald spot and I don't want them to see that.
So how do you see the weather map if you're just in the cameras?
It's imposed on through the magic of television. It just comes up.
Oh.
So it's like arts and entertainment. Like there would be nothing there, but if I look in the television monitor, they superimpose me over the graphic, and I just appear. It's very technological. But again, I'm not quite sure of all the semantics and how it works. I just know I just appear, and there I am in front of the maps.
Was it hard to learn to do all of that?
In the beginning, it was very difficult because you point left, sometimes you go right, sometimes you go right, you go left. It's the story of my life. But that wasn't so hard. The technology, you have to learn a graphic system. You have to know how to forecast. You have to know even today, the technicality, the technical things you have to know. You're making some of the maps, not all of them, but I had to put a snowfall forecast, a snowfall accumulation map together today. So I had to go in and type the towns and put all the data in, and you have to. It's like you're a graphic designer as well as a meteorologist, as well as a forecaster, as well as a communicator. So there's a lot going on.
Is there a meteorologist? I'm not saying the word right.
Meteorologist, a producer, you mean?
Is there a program that you have to go in and press buttons and it comes up so that we see that?
When I open my show in the morning, it's called WSI, and it's a whole weather program. So when I open my show in the morning, everything updates. Current temperatures. This is not the way it used to be back in the day. You'd have to really do some research to get. Now today, we just, with the click of a button, our show opens. We have different slides within the show, and each slide is something different. The satellite and radar, which is real-time data. The temperature is real-time data. Everything is real-time data, so you know exactly where you are and what it is. It's fast. I do.
Do you like doing the weather?
I do like doing the weather. I like, I love doing the weather, but I also like being a communicator and helping people get up in the morning and put a smile on their face. I think there's just as much to that as there is to the forecasting and to telling the weather, because you want to have a positive impact on people. Some people don't want to get up in the morning. They're grumpy. They've got to go to a job that they may not necessarily like. So I try to be a bright spot in their day, which I hope I'm succeeding at. And from the feedback that I've gotten, I do. I put smiles on people's faces, and I've got a lot of wonderful feedback over the years, which is really nice. Some not so great, but we don't need to talk about that today. That's for another show. That's arts and entertainment, part 2.
What's it like working at WFSB or an establishment such as that? What happens when you walk through the door?
It's wonderful. The first thing I do when I walk through the door is make coffee. First thing I do is make the coffee, and anybody will tell you that. You'll see me make a beeline right through the newsroom, but we've got such a wonderful, a lot of youth. I mean, we have producers that are 23 to 25. I'm going to be 60 in 2 years. So I'm like, I never thought I'd be the old man in the newsroom, but here I am. Colin Nalepa, my co-anchor, she's 34. Caitlin Francis, my traffic reporter, is 32. And then Wendell's a little bit closer in age to me. He's over 50. So it's nice to have a little seniority in the room. But, sometimes you're like, oh, I'm the older person in this group. But it's fun. Everybody gets treated equally. It's a great environment. We recently got sold. We were owned by the Meredith Corporation. We're now owned by Gray Media. And we're looking forward to a bright future with that company.
So far, so good?
So far, so good.
Okay?
Feels great.
Good.
Yes, it really does. It's
good.
It's a nice fit. Meredith was more of a publications company with some television stations, whereas Gray Media is a television company. That's what their focus is. They own over 114 television stations in the United States. So they know how to do television. Meredith knew how to do television too, but they had a big publishing component to their company. So now we're just television, and I think this is going to be a great fit.
Now you're in your 24th year. Probably didn't think that it would last this long, maybe?
No. I thought after a year I would be shown the door.
Okay.
I did. I was I was the new kid on the block, and they were like, you're a little wacky. And Connecticut isn't ready for you. And I was like, does Connecticut have a sense of humor? And one of my bosses said no. And I said, yes, they do. And it's proven that Connecticut does have a great sense of humor, and they rely on accurate forecasting. So it all comes together. Future.
You're in your present moment, but
Yeah.
what does your future look like?
It's somewhere on a beach, Deborah.
How much longer will you stay?
I don't know. My contract is currently through 2025. So I've still got 3 years, almost 3 to 4 years on this current contract. And then after that, I'm hoping to get a few more years. And then I don't know, the sky's the limit. As some people said, they're going to take me out of there in a box. But we'll see. Hopefully not for a very long time.
Now you're mentioning contract. Is there a business component to being an employee at a station such as yours?
People in front of the camera have personal service contracts, and they negotiate with the station. So you'll have a 2-year contract or a 3-year contract or sometimes a 5-year contract. I was very gracious. I was very lucky. I got a 5-year contract with the station when I re-signed. Back in 2020, that was. So and now it's ironclad. They can't get rid of me, and I can't get rid of them. We love each other. It's symbiotic. Or is that the right word? I hope so. Yeah, so it's a good thing.
So then from there, once the 2025 comes, then
I'll renegotiate.
Okay.
And hopefully go on from there, and hopefully there'll be many more years at Channel 3.
Because I think that some people probably think not of the business, but as a performance of being at the news, being a news anchor, being traffic, being weather. You don't think that there's a business component in contracts.
Oh, absolutely. It's like any job. It's not like you have a contract if you're in human resources or if you're in marketing or things like that, but they want to know that you're going to be with them for a while and that you're not going to go anywhere. And vice versa. I want to know that I'm secure in my job and that I don't have to go anywhere. So it's good. It's a good fit. It's a good relationship.
Now you had mentioned, we have to say, you're up at 2:30. You're out on the road at 3:30. You're on at 4:30 to 7, I think, and then you're still working your day.
Yes.
How has that been physically, mentally, emotionally for you to be able to live your life like that?
It's taken its toll socially. I'm not going to kid you. 7 o'clock, I'm in bed. And on the weekends, if I get to 9, I'm lucky. So, a lot of people start going out at 7, 8 o'clock at night, and I'm going to bed. I missed a lot of weddings when I first started because I was working weekends, weekend mornings, that's a particularly hard shift because you got to give up your weekends. Anything social is going on is typically Friday, Saturday nights, and you're getting up to go to work at 3 o'clock in the morning. So, and I used to commute from New York City when I first got the job at Channel 3. I used to get up at 1 to 1:30 to be at work by 4, and we would go on the air at 7. So it was pretty incredible. But yeah, it's been good.
We are starting to run out of time.
Oh, bummer. Well, I say Arts and Entertainment Part 2 with Deborah Gilbert and Scot Haney.
I was talking to the crew here saying we should keep you for an hour because we could keep on going for forever.
I'd like that.
My viewers, any closing thoughts to the viewer as to what your thoughts are in general as to moving forward in the industry or in moving forward in life?
I spoke to Gina Gershon today. She is in a new movie. It's a I can't remember the name of it. She's an actress, and she looked at, I said, any advice that you can give? And she said, always follow your dreams, and if they say no along the way, don't listen. That's what I can say to the viewers. Follow your dreams, and don't, if anybody says no, keep going.
Well, I want to thank you so much for sharing yourself and your life. And
I appreciate that.
Your professional endeavors as well. It's helped the viewer, and I really appreciate that.
Oh, good. I'm glad. I'm glad. Very nice to see you.
Nice to see you, too. Thank you for coming.
My pleasure.
Well, you've been tuned in to Arts and Entertainment. I hope you've enjoyed the show today. What a treat. And I look forward to seeing you next time. Have a super day. Thanks for tuning in again. I'll see you next time. Bye-bye.